Thank you very much, and a lot of food for thought there. But I think while you chew on it, we'll have the next speaker, Mr. Atul Tiwari, Joint Secretary, Minister of Rural Development.
The distinguished members in the panel and the distinguished audience here. First of all, I would like to thank Sri Vijay Kumarji. Sir, you gave an excellent historical perspective, and we are thankful to you because that allows us, or me rather, to situate the present interventions by the rural development towards eradication of poverty. I would like to enter a separate argument with Mr. Tandon later so that we can brief him that whatever your concern are, sir, that is how we are also designing our interventions towards eradication of poverty. Without taking much time, I'll quickly go through a very small presentation, and I'll also list out certain issues to the notice of Niti Aayog in my final slide. Insofar as the SDG 1 is concerned, Ministry of Rural Development is made the nodal ministry for Goal 1. We have also finalized the RD's interventions and which are the proposed indicators. I will not spend much time on that because we have collected data on that, and we will also giving that to Niti Aayog for their compilation. Coming to the crux of the poverty eradication, insofar as rural development is concerned, there are the three-pillar approach. One is address vulnerability. In this regard, we have NREGA, which is 100 days employment. National Social Assistance Program is there. Then we have to support the poor for basic living, which is a NREGA again, minimum wage employment, PMJSY, Prime Minister Awas Yojana. Organize, skill, and support the poor, which covers the whole gamut of NRLM and skill diversification, etc. So what we are trying to do is diversified livelihoods, adequate infrastructure, and improved skills will give a human capability as a thrust. As Vijay Kumar sir was mentioning, we have to increase the capability of the people so that they can come out of the poverty line. This is just a brief snapshot of what all that we are trying to do it. We are going to build, as Honorable Minister Rural Development was saying, we will build by December this year 1 crore houses, which if you compare with the earlier record, it will appear quite a huge jump. Then we have the Prime Minister Gramin Sadak Yojana. We have the National Rural Livelihood Mission. My colleague Mr. Dalu will be speaking at the next panel on more about this. Of course, NREGA is there, skills, social security, and the point I would like to highlight here is that there is a shift towards evidence-based interventions for which we have made the SECC 2011 as a basis. And I'm sure a separate study can be made out on the use of the SECC, the way it has made the targeting of the beneficiaries so easy and reduced the field level malpractices to a great extent. Then we also are going to use real-time monitoring, leveraging digital technology for efficient and transparent governance, on which I will come later. As you can see, because the assets have been created, we have found that the agriculture productivity of surveyed household has increased. There is an IEG study of the households benefiting from increase in water table due to NREGA work. There is an IRMA study on NRLM which says that how in the non-mission area and mission areas, there has been an increase in the income and assets of poor. And as you can see, the credit of rupees 1.2 lakh crore has been leveraged from the bank in the last 4 years for the self-help groups, and which have a NPA as low as 2.5 or 2.7%. This is a PMJSY, as our minister was saying about the milk thing. It has really, really helped in bringing the rural livelihoods up, and connectivity has helped businesses to grow. the approach which the ministry has taken, and some of which also finds expression in the concept of the aspirational district as well, is a mission Antyodaya. This is the approach which we are taking. If you look at historically now, the emphasis is on convergence and saturation, which is focused on raising income. At the same time, as Mr. Tandon was saying, going for the institutional strengthening without the PRI's involvement, as Mr. Vijay Kumar also said, is strengthening civil society, going with the corporates and professionals will not be able to develop and remove the poverty. And all this comes on a technological by help for an integrated monitoring dashboard. This is a response to the multidimensional nature of poverty. As we all know, poverty is not only because of income. It can be happen also lack of education or lack of good health care. If you see the total outlay in the social sector by the central government, every year we are spending around 4 lakh crore of outlay in the social sector. And if you combine it with the state corresponding share, it will go still further. And this is a time when, by convergence, by building on specific geographies, which we have mapped, we have done 50,000 gram panchayats, which we have mapped on the defined indicators, we have ranked them, and linking the SECC and baseline survey data, if we start improving, going on the gaps in these areas, and start filling them through convergence, then surely within 1 or 2 years we'll be able to show very substantial increase in the way the villages are moving up on the very defined indicators. This is the approach I would submit, is that what we are trying to do in the rural development. And this is also supported by integrated IEC, which is a Gram Samvad. I request everybody to upload this Gram Samvad app on their mobile. You go any part of the world, India, and you can see what are the rural development schemes in that village. I went for election duty somewhere in the Kutch. I was right on the border of Pakistan. I looked into that. I could see in that locality how many houses are there, what Narega works are there, what road is being made, what SDGs are there. All the information is available there. So I would consider this as a remarkable breakthrough because of technology, which helps us not only convey what we are doing, but also to monitor what is happening in those localities. And as was mentioned, there's something called Disha, which is going to be a monitoring mechanism where 41 schemes are going to come on board. As of now, we have around 9 schemes which has come on board. And this is just to give you an idea that how in a convergent manner under Mission Antyodaya framework, we'd like to approach the multidimensionality of poverty, whether it is social protection, whether it is sports, whether it's connectivity, power, housing, health, nutrition, water conservation, bank credit, education, women SHGs, well-being, etc., etc. And this is just to give an idea that if we are going for so SECC data which is there, which allows us to target the interventions to the people who really need that. And this is how we have done the ranking of the Gram Panchayats, 50,000, which is on the infrastructure. We have done the social development and economic development, and the emphasis is how to increase and diversify their livelihood options. As you can see, as Vijay Kumar sir was showing, sir, we have also this 50,000 scores, as you can see, which is very intuitive. The certain states, big states, have done very bad in the ranking, like Jharkhand, Assam, etc. Other states have done it well. And now it's not only that picture, it also allows us on what areas we should improve on so that these can grow into the ranking. This is for the smaller states. This is the DISA integrated location-based monitoring. We are trying to do it. As of now, we have around 6-7 schemes are there, and we are working with the industries, ministries to share their APIs. And we also, what we are trying to do is that every village has the LGD code. So if every scheme allows use of the LGD code, and they have their API, in the API, if you transform them, then all this data will be accessed on Disha, and it will become a great tool to understand how the geographies are responding to the government interventions in terms of eradication of poverty. And this is what I tell about the Gram Samvad. Now let me come very quickly to the issues which I would like to pose to the Niti Aayog for advice and guidance. We require some more clarity for nodal ministries, like for the SDG 1, there is a reporting from RD and Tribal Affairs and Social Justice is cross-cutting. So we'd like to work with them to have a well-built mechanism to put in place. Second thing is that how to ensure coordination in reporting, and in the reporting format for VNR also we'd like to have some discussion. I would like to be fully involved and help you as much as we can to make it more quantitative as well as a little bit of qualitative. And the biggest problem we are going to have in this, which we require some suggestion from Niti Aayog, will be the proportion of population living below the national poverty line. There's a mention of $1.25 per day as an indicator. As you know, sir, that we do not have a poverty line as of now. The rural development is working on the SECC data, which is not exactly the poverty line. So some want to clarification or pooling of our minds together to come out a solution on this very thorny issue will help us go further in our reporting as well as in our achievement. Thank you very much. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks a lot, Atul, for the perspective from the ministry's side, the details of the plans and programs going forward. And now the last speaker, I think it's but fit that we give the lady the last word. So I'll request Rohini to make her presentation. I still hope to have 5 to 7 minutes of questions at the end of it.
So I'll try and stick to my 10 minutes. Are these on? Can you hear me fine? Okay, great. So what I'll do is take a couple of minutes to tell you about the history of thinking about poverty and the problem of poverty. Then a little 2 more minutes maybe about what I think are the successes, and then maybe 3 minutes each on areas that I think we need more thought in and specific policies that stem from there. Let's aim for that. So if you think about the history of poverty measurement and more broadly about the history in the extent of poverty, I would say the 70s. So the 70s were the first time, 1971 was the first time when you heard the Garibi Hatao slogan in political discourse. And Mr. Vijay Kumar referred to, I think, the minimum needs program. And so the 5th and the 6th 5-year plans were the first time you had specific goals, like a primary school within 1 kilometer of each village, and so on. Drinking water within this range, so many primary health centers. So those were the first time you actually got norms coming in. Before that, you did, however, recognize that growth and poverty were linked, but not in an easy fashion. So one of the documents I'd suggest anyone who's interested in going back and looking at these issues would look at the document prepared by the Prospective Planning Division under Pitambar Pant in the 60s. And this really recognized that there's certain parts of the population who will benefit from a trickle down. So if you're growing fast, they're going to be people who get employed, they come into that good growth circle. But then there's about 20% of the population. And it's funny how I still think it's about 20% of the population that is really not going to be touched by growth that's going on elsewhere, and you'll have to do special things for them. So it's interesting, we brought out a new edition of an old book on poverty and income distribution in India, which was published in the 70s by Bardhan and Srinivasan. And we read a lot of these documents, and it was interesting to see how much has stayed the same in our opinion. So I'd refer you to that if you were interested. There is a lot that is changing, however, and I think Mr. Tiwari's presentation showed you some of that. So what do I think are the other successes? I think the NREGS is just, in many ways, a wonderful program. So I think I would disagree with Mr. Tandon there. I think partly because it was envisioned not just as providing insurance when things are going badly, but also in terms of building village infrastructure. And so there we come to this issue of should we focus on urban versus rural, should we focus on short-term help rather than long-term help. And I think the NREGS had the potential to address many of these things because, again, what is urban today was rural yesterday. And if the rural had been different, then the urban would have been different. And our urban problems are really clearly very large. Our urban spaces are very unpleasant spaces by and large. And so if we can do something to really change the rural, then we're simultaneously changing the urban. And so I think that was a great success. I think the midday meal scheme was a great success in many, many ways. So many more children attend government schools. We haven't managed to improve the quality very much, but they attend government schools and they get a decent meal a day. And working parents, especially if the mother is a construction laborer, I mean, this really helps. It might be the first and maybe the only solid meal they have in the day. Other things, I think that banking, and this is particularly in the last few years, I think that banking has been a phenomenal success in terms